Hello, and welcome to The Storied Human. I'm Lynn Thompson, and today I have a wonderful guest that I met by accident. I was in a doctor's office and we just started talking, and I just warmed up to her right away. She just seems to understand people, and we had, not a light conversation, which I love. We went right into it. Her name is Deana Kiser, and she's an administrative assistant at a doctor's office. But I learned very quickly that she understands how difficult life can be. She's had a very long and difficult health journey, and she's learned to live with chronic pain, which is its own horrible story. But I was impressed with the things that she had learned, how she came out of it. And I feel like we can all learn a lot from her by hearing her story. And that's, what we're all about here at The Storied Human. So welcome, Deana. It's so good to have you. I'm so glad we were able to do this. How are you today?
Good morning, Lynn. I'm doing okay. Thank you so much for having me. I hope my story helps people. I'm looking forward to sharing. It is winter, so it's cold, so my pain has gone up a bit as it does in the winter, but I'm doing well.
I just think you have a great attitude, and I know it's not easy, but you have a great attitude. So why don't you just give us a little bit of a background, like when I know that this started with an accident and you've been dealing with this in your life. You had to crawl out of a dark place and you did that. So let's talk about how it started so we can tell our listeners how it started for you.
Okay. So it was September of 2000. It was 2 months before my 30th birthday. So I was young. I was 29. I was living up in Boston. I was a young professional. And I really cared a lot about fitness. I was at the gym every night after work, and that was an important part of my life. I had an accident, an injury on a cross trainer machine in a freak thing that I could not repeat, probably if you paid me. And I ended my workout, gave the machine a big push backward, and I heard a pop coming from my lower right like back hip area around there. So I thought, well, I'll just ice it. Can't be whatever it is. I never reported it, which I later found out you had to report for to sue, basically. Not that I'm so happy, but it was their machine. And anyway, I thought, oh, ice it. It's no big deal. Iced it, rested it, did all the things you're supposed to do. And it's getting worse, and it's spreading down my legs. The pain,
Oh my God.
it's taking over my life. The pain just wouldn't stop. It wouldn't abate. And I finally, 2 months in or so, said it's time to get medical professionals in the loop and figure out what's going on here. This is not a simple problem. This is life altering. Like, I couldn't even think straight through the pain.
Oh my God.
Work had started to become an issue. I was not doing anything socially with friends. I had a boyfriend at the time. I was pushing him away. So it was totally life altering. Got the doctors in the loop, and it was a merry-go-round, a merry-go-round. I mean, I don't want to take too much time of going, because that's a story in and of itself, of going to doctors, hearing this, hearing that, running to this doctor, that doctor. The medical community became my life. Long story short, I ended up having 3 surgeries, which I now know were never necessary.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they said a ligament strain to my SI joint, which is the joint that connects your hip to your pelvis. That's apparently where the problem started. So I had that fused 3 times, and pain down my legs. It took 2.5 years to get an answer for that, but that wasn't even related to the mechanical problem in my SI joint. That the injury set off something called reflex sympathetic dystrophy, or chronic pain syndrome. It's rare, but what happened basically is, when you're injured, say you put your hand in a pot of boiling water, boom, your sympathetic nervous system goes off. It sends the pain signals. It says, ouch, remove hand, we get this, remove the stimuli. With RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, or chronic pain syndrome, or peripheral neuropathy, there's many names, that system goes off in your brain to say, injury, remove that stimulus. Well, with ours, your brain gets stuck, and it's as if that painful stimulus is already there. My body, my brain believes I am under attack 24/7, and it's sending out the signals, the pain signals, the circulation's shrinking. It's doing all of this as if there's an injury. I'm still in injury mode, and so my whole body is in pain, especially from the waist down. The mechanism has gone a little cuckoo. I tried many modalities, you name it. I tried it: acupuncture, light therapy. I've done just every medication under the sun. I was dependent on chronic pain, opiates for a while. Thankfully, I'm off that. But yeah, and then I went into a deep depression for many years because it was so life altering. I couldn't live my life. And it was a journey. It was a journey climbing my way outside that tunnel, and brings me to where I am now. Life is good. I manage this pain. I've learned that it is a unwanted companion in my life, but I've learned that I'm in control of it, not it of me.
I'm amazed by that because, first of all, you were young and it was a total shock, right? We're not
Right,
prepared for something like that. And I had never heard of this. It makes sense though that some people their body just doesn't realize they're not in pain and the brain is sending those signals.
right, right,
I can't imagine going through that at that age. Now, where
right,
were you in your career then? I know you had a whole different career.
right. So I was a human resources consultant. I had moved my way up from I done some benefits work, and then I was doing some recruiting. And then so my last role was an HR consultant, and I was doing recruiting, employee relations, some benefit work, working with our benefits administrator, working with our recruiter, there's singular recruiters. So doing a lot of like a generalist, human resource generalist work. And yeah, I really liked the role. I dealt with people a lot, and interviewed them. And I enjoyed learning about them. So I enjoy people.
I noticed that you really do connect with people. I bet you were great at that. That really feels like your area, you know?
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it.
But you had to give that up, didn't you?
I did. So it just became, it was in September 2000 was my injury. I worked as much as I could getting into the office. And then it just became like, wow, I can't handle 5 days of the week sitting. Because I mostly sat at the desk, and I can't do this. I physically can no longer do this. So this was way before COVID. My boss was just very understanding and didn't want to see me go. So he allowed me to work from home.
That's
And
wonderful.
it was because then I could, but it was before Zoom, it was before video. So I was literally though in my pajamas, lying on my bed with my laptop. That's the only way I could get through my day. And then I had my surgeries, recovered from them, and then it just became like, this is all too much. I still can't think. I can't think the past the pain. And it was just a mutual decision that, we probably should part ways. So I gave up my career, and then I was disabled for many years. And yeah, I think about how life may have been different, without the injury, without the path that I'm on now. But yeah, I had to give it up.
That's a lot to handle. I'm just amazed that you were able to come out of that.
Right,
So you fell into a depression. Did you? I remember you talking about moving from Boston. You moved home
right,
with your parents.
right. So 2 years in since the injury, after the injury, I literally couldn't take care of myself, and financially it started to become a concern. And I wasn't even doing a lot of the basics in life, like my grocery shopping had become a problem. I was getting my groceries delivered. This was, years ago, before it was commonplace. I fell into a severe depression, just pushed away my boyfriend, and that that relationship ended. That couldn't sustain this because had only been together 8 months. So it wasn't, it wasn't like we were together years. We could work through it. I just became a different person. That relationship ended. And I wasn't even talking to my friends. I was not returning phone calls. So I was a recluse. I was turning into a
Yeah.
recluse. So my parents stepped in and moved me back to their home. At that point, I'm almost 31 years old, and moved me to their home back in New Jersey. Never wanted to be back in this area. I kind of said, I'm out of here, this small little farming town. And, I'm too big for this, and loved my life in Boston. But yeah, so then when I was back with my parents, I mean, the depression was severe, severe. The depression. I mean, I should be embarrassed to say this, but I didn't shower. I didn't so much as brush my teeth. I didn't comb my hair. I lied around in pajamas all day, every day, just a zombie. I had become a zombie, and many years of that. And then I eventually moved into a small little studio. When I say small, it was ridiculously small, and it was not a nice place or a nice atmosphere. A couple of towns over, a little small condo or apartment. That's all I could afford. I was living on disability. I had exhausted all my savings except for investments, but my expendable savings, I had exhausted everything. So I was living. Wow, the lifestyle was a it was hard to swallow, hard for me to accept that had become, so low income. And then, and I gained 160 pounds because I couldn't work out. I was drinking, was 2,000 calories of soda a day, carbs, sugars, all the things that, I used to care about. I didn't care about. I knew what I was doing wrong. I was, in denial about my size. And, it wasn't the same person. I didn't look like the same person. It was just when I think back to it, I think, wow, did my life really, really, really get that low? That carried on for, years, over a decade. And then I don't know, one day I saw a picture of myself at a family reunion. I wasn't allowing cameras on myself at the time, but my aunt, had thrown, it was a family reunion at a 70th birthday party for my uncle, took a group shot of our entire family. She sent out the copy to everyone. And I can't tell you, I don't know exactly what clicked in my head, but I saw that picture and thought, has it really come to this? Do I really look like this? Is this what I want to set out to the world? I physically looked like my pain. My inside pain now took over myself physically, and I looked like how I felt. And it just boom, like it just clicked. I dumped all my soda. I got rid of the carbs, got rid of the sugar. I wanted to get activity again, but I knew at this size I wouldn't be able to do anything on land. That pool was the only way. So I joined the Y and got into a water aerobics class. Those women in the pool were much older than me and became like mom-like figures. Because
Oh,
at that point I lost my mom in 2011. So
oh
these
my
women
God.
became like mom-like figures, and we would just touch base every morning. I never missed a day of class, and
That's so good.
yeah, I
Mm.
lost all that weight. And then I came off the opioids I was on, and I got on better medication. I learned that I can still live with this pain. And then I got a part-time job.
I am amazed that you pulled yourself out of that. And you had that moment when you saw yourself in the picture. And
Right.
I think a lot of us have a similar moment. Like we don't want to face how we look. I've gained weight. And when you see those pictures, it kind of wakes you up. But all the things that you did afterwards, it amazes me because a lot of people just have a hard time doing one of those things that you took care of yourself that way. And I've done water aerobics and those ladies are wonderful at the Y.
I know,
I
right?
know it's
Yeah.
so great. I'm so amazed by you that you were able to come back. And I know you probably have the same feeling I do because I was ill with a couple different diseases. I had Lyme and I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then I had
Oh, I'm
Hashimoto's
sorry.
thyroiditis. And it's not chronic pain, but it definitely interrupted my life. And I look back at that period of time now, and I feel like I could have done better. I feel like it was kind of, I was stagnant. I mean, I can
Right.
relate a tiny bit. I know that chronic pain is totally different. And my mother was in chronic pain, and
Oh, wow.
I saw what it does to you, like how it interrupts your life. And what hurts me the most is hearing all the things you were forced to give up, your job, your friends, your boyfriend. And about the depression, I get mild depression sometimes. And I always tell people it's not about being sad necessarily, right? It's about being nothing. It's about being numb.
Right,
You
right,
get into that thing where you're just numb, and that's fine with you because you don't want to feel. I totally get it. But the fact that you could come out of it is very inspiring, because
thank
people sort
you.
of feel like, this is it. I'm going to have to be like this forever, but you changed it. And I feel like you can help a lot of people by telling them
Thank you.
how you
I
did
hope
this.
so. I want people to know, people in pain, physical, whatever, some kind of pain, that you can climb out of the tunnel. It buries you, but you can climb out. And Lynn, I have to tell you, when you said numb, back when I was numb, Comfortably Numb, the song,
Yeah.
I used to play it nonstop and just lay there nonstop and just
So you
play it.
got
And
it.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
you knew.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
But that's
So
how we protect ourselves, I think, sometimes. Sometimes it's just too much. The
right,
body, I don't think people understand either that depression is a physical, there's a physical component to it. Your systems, your body is literally lower, depressed. Your
right.
metabolism isn't as quick. Your
No,
mind isn't as quick. All the things that used to be at a optimum speed are depressed, are lowered. And so there you were. I mean, a lot of people would not climb out of that. And I still am wondering, what do you think enabled you to do that when you saw that picture and you made those changes?
don't know. It was like it just something that I don't know. Something just clicked in my head and said, you have to change. You have to live a life. You have to live with this pain. You need to get back to yourself. You need to dig and crawl and dig your way out of this and find your way back to the light. And it was a process, and it was getting the physical activity, changing my diet, losing the weight, changing my doctors, getting off the opioids and finding a different way. And now actually I'm to the point where I do work out now. Every morning I do Pilates and yoga. I took a yoga class a few years after I lost the weight and got it back into life. But now I do yoga at home. I do Pilates and yoga every morning. I get up around 5 a.m. By 5:30, I'm down on my mat doing it. It releases the dopamine, the endorphins, all those feel good
Yeah.
chemicals. And despite living with physical pain that a lot of people could never imagine, despite that, because I'm releasing those feel good chemicals in the morning, it just sets the tone for the day. And I am like, I can deal with this. I got this.
So impressed with you. What occurs to me too is that you were, before this, in the habit of you were very good about working out. You had that sort of discipline. And
Right.
so you got that going again. Like you had that before, and you were able to like return to that, in
Yes.
some form. And
A
that to me
modified way.
is so, you were so. Also, what occurs to me is that there was a little spark still inside of you, of the old you, that little spark that
Hmm.
never went away. And you reconnected with it, and you're like, I know I can be like that person again. Maybe
Right.
not the same, but I can be like that person. And
Yes.
and you found that spark, and you worked your way out. I mean, one of those things is amazing. Losing all that weight is amazing. Getting to the point where you could work out is amazing. Getting a part-time job is amazing. All those things you did. And I saw a person when I met you at the doctor's office. I saw a really happy person. I saw a giving, happy, warm person. And I would have never
Thank
guessed
you.
that you were dealing with all this.
Thank you. I am happy, Lynn. I'm very happy. I'm content, happy. I'm socializing again. I've reconnected with old friends. I see childhood friends who still live here. I reconnected with my college friends. Um, and we celebrate the 50th birthday of one of my old roommates, and we caught up, on everything. I still have more living in different areas of the state that I need to have reunions with. And I've made new friends. I've made
Yeah.
some new friends, the pool ladies, through work, through different social things I do. I want to start volunteering with Meals on Wheels. I contacted the administrator there, and we're working that out. That brings me joy. The idea of helping a shut-in. I was once a shut-in,
It's
and
wonderful.
just coming in and you know, not only delivering their food, but providing some conversation and company, and yeah, I'm happy. I'm dating again, which is um challenging because, I feel like I'm how do I present this, that I have this pain, this this, the pain is a part of me, and that it's enough to disable me, and that my job is only part-time. I don't know, what point to say all that and not scare someone off. So it presents some challenges. I feel like damaged goods in some way in that regard. I'm not. I'm happy and content, but I do have this.
Yeah.
It's just a, part of the package.
Constant companion.
Right, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Unwanted one, but yeah.
And you
Mm-hmm.
learn to live with it. I'm sort of amazed that you put all the pieces back together. And I know you've written some of this down, but it sure sounds like it should be a book.
Yeah, I did write a short story, and I am chopping that around. I do, I don't think my story in and of itself is a page turner, but I would love to get to gather some attention on the short story and see what kind of um possibilities there are with publishers or something. I think I like the book idea of not only my story, but a collection of other people who have come through the other side of this. And
That
I
would be
think,
amazing.
right, I think it might be a good story for people newly diagnosed, people newly
Yeah.
coming into pain, to know it's possible to live with it. I also think that, the medical community needs to better understand the very complex problem of chronic pain. I think they're just treating it with band-aids, and it's a complex problem. I mean, to come through the other side of this, you say, like, I seem content and happy, I am, but the process, I also went
Yeah.
through years of therapy of just, purging the loss, this loss, that loss. Nobody understands me. Nobody understands this. I feel alienated. I feel like a foreigner in a strange land. Like,
Mm.
just years of therapy.
Good for you. I
Yeah.
do feel like you're very persistent, and I feel like that's when you hit something like this in your life, being persistent and keep trying things and being stubborn, I think helps. I'm like that. I
Thank
never
you.
stop. I never stop trying things. And so I feel
I
better
know.
now than 10 years ago. I literally do. And
Awesome.
it's been a lot of my own hard work. And I agree about the medical community. They tried, but they weren't able to help my mom very much. And you know what
Oh,
hits me, Dina, is I keep seeing those commercials about drugs, right? They always have a commercial about whatever drug it is, Lyrica or, whatever, and they sort of present it like you'll take this drug and you'll be fine. And I think people have accepted that narrative, and so they think there's something wrong with you, right? They don't want to accept that some people's pain doesn't go away.
right.
It's kind of immature to think, that simplistically, that you take a drug and the pain goes away. But I think we are raised that way. We're raised to think that way, and we're not prepared that sometimes suffering will continue and you have to learn to live that life, which is not
Oh, yeah.
something we're taught, right? You had to learn so much about how to live. And also, I don't want to undermine the grief that you went through. Like, you had to give
Mm.
up that life that you thought you would have. you had to give up for a short time your friends, your boyfriend. There was so much loss, and that's bad enough, but then you feel isolated because I know people said to you, have you tried this? Have you
Oh,
tried
all
that?
the
Yeah.
time. Yes. They all had the answer. All, and yeah, and I've tried everything.
And
Yeah.
that's so well meaning, but what they're really saying, and this happens with grief too, people really don't want to go there because it's so upsetting to them to think that they might get something that they can't heal. You know what I mean?
Right.
People
Right.
don't want to deal with the depth of people's suffering. And so, and they mean well, they're trying to suggest a solution, but they also don't want to go all that way and feel all that. And like my whole
Mm,
thing is we all go through something. We have to learn to remember that humanity is connected through these experiences, grief and loss and pain. We all have something. Okay. Some of us may not have, as bad as others, but we all have to recognize that this is life. And we have to stop pretending like, a drug can fix somebody. It's like, it's a nice idea, but it doesn't work all the time.
Western medicine, their solution is surgery and drugs.
Yeah.
Surgery and
Yeah.
drugs. I really, from being on the merry-go-round, I really feel like our system is broken. I think the medical community is broken. Where I get the most relief is meditation, all, more natural approach, more homeopathic approach, meditation, yoga, Pilates. And there is one medication I take, it's a non-narcotic, and it does help with the sensation of the blood flow, the lack of blood flow, the circulation problem in my legs.
That's
One
good.
medication. Yeah. But all of those opioids that I was on prior to the opioid crisis, I mean, it was like, I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to live
You
through the
are.
amounts of
You are.
medication they were putting on me. Yeah.
So I'm
Um,
so struck by the fact that you mentioned meditation because I talk to a lot of people on this podcast, and that keeps coming up that we have to practice mindfulness and that meditation really helps center us and we can
yes.
find more peace that way. I love that you're mentioning that because you've tried all that other stuff, the awful opiates and the surgeries, and you've tried that Western medicine and it can help sometimes, but I really feel like you've just come to a balanced place. Like you've accepted where you are and you're making the best of it. And you put together your life, you put it back together.
I did.
So
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know if you even know, like, we don't know who listens to these conversations. I've had people come up to me sometimes. Like I went to a reunion, like a casual local reunion of my high school friends. And
Okay.
somebody came up to me and gave me a hug and said, I've listened to every episode of your podcast. Like, I don't get that feedback. It's not the same as, comments in Facebook, but people are listening and they're going to be touched by your story. And if they're not going through chronic pain, I bet they know someone who is. And it's going to
Mm,
help them understand that it's deeper than they thought and it's harder than they thought and it's more isolating than they thought. So maybe you'll help somebody help someone else, which I love.
definitely.
That's really, really important. So I'm gonna ask you to sum up if there was one or two things that you could share with people about how to help someone who is in chronic pain, or if they themselves are dealing with chronic pain, what would you tell them?
What you just said, the word isolated, that's exactly how you feel when you're in chronic pain. And I think if they know someone in chronic pain, if they can just try to keep in touch and say, I don't understand, I'm not living this, I'm not on this journey, but um I'm there for you.
I
I'm
love
there for
that.
you. Know that I understand your pain is real, that you're probably in a medical merry-go-round and you feel alone. You're not alone.
I love that.
Um,
Yes, that's what you
yeah,
could have used. And I know the isolation makes everything else worse. Like that's what's
right,
so sad about it is we don't offer a lot of solutions to people who are in chronic pain and dealing with this, and then they feel isolated. It makes everything worse.
right,
So I love that tip because again, we're all in this together
right.
and we don't I wrote a thing on Medium about how we sometimes just don't know why things happen. We have to be comfortable with not knowing. We can't grab easy answers or tell you what drug you should take. We just have to accept that there's a mystery to our lives, and we don't know the reasons why things happen. We don't know why people have, chronic pain or don't have chronic pain. We just have to accept that this is what it is right now. This is my life, and I'm going to make the best of it that I can. And that's what you've done. I think that you don't even realize how inspiring that is.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Lynn. Yeah,
I
thank
feel
you.
it when you talk. I really feel it. And I can't thank you enough for coming on. I know people are going to be, I feel like it goes two ways. They're going to be inspired to change themselves if they're dealing with chronic pain. But also, I think it's really important to share how to help our friends and our family who are dealing with it, because we don't have the tools. We don't know. We aren't raised to recognize this. In fact, we're raised the other way, to pretend like it doesn't really exist, that people don't continue to suffer. That, in my mind as a little girl, I was always like, oh, you take a drug, you go to the doctor, things get
Exactly.
better.
Right.
It's not the way it is sometimes. And we have to go
Mm-mm.
there with people. If we love someone and they're our friend or our family, we have to be willing to go there with them and say, look, I don't know why I can't fix your problem. I don't know how it feels, but I love you and I'm here. And that
Exactly.
was my advice for people who are grieving. It's the same advice. It's like,
Right.
you don't have to say much, just be there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And you don't have to understand how someone's feeling to be there for them,
Right.
to love
Right.
them. So,
Right.
yay,
No one,
you.
no one can truly understand this journey, but just like you say, be there. And occasionally I'll post a little thing on Facebook about that. I'll just, normally I'm talking about my life and what I did this weekend or blah, blah, blah. But once in a while, sprinkle in there something to the effect of, chronic pain's a complex problem. If you know someone in it, let them know you're there.
I love that. See, I love
Yeah.
that. I love so many things about your story, but what I really love is not only did you turn yourself around, but you're trying to help others. I love that you're reaching out to volunteer. It just makes a whole happy person to have all those pieces in your life, and to take the suffering that you had. The only way to help that is to turn it around and help others, because
Yeah.
that's the whole package. And I feel sad that you still have to live with this pain, but I've learned so much from you about how to deal with something like that. I think you're very brave, and I think that people are going to love your story, for real.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope
So
it helps.
I cannot thank you enough for coming on.
Thank you, Len.